I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. We are joined by Weston Asher. Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going cold over here. I know it's going snowy over there. You can have the snow. I'll take the cold.
It's been a pretty brutal week. It's supposed to get even worse this evening, but we'll power through it.
Oh my gosh, time to get out all of the blankets and the pets and stay under them for the rest of the winter.
I've got like 5 layers on my bed right now.
Yeah,
it's pretty.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to be enough for me. I don't think. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I am Weston Asher, your merchant of dreams. I see you every night, even though you don't remember. And you can follow me over on YouTube, usually a few times every week, and usually posting over on Blue Sky. Hi. Yeah,
I appreciate you coming on. And I see I've been taking a look at what you've been doing on there, on the Twitch and YouTube as well. How long have you been doing this?
Well, I've been doing content creation, I want to say about 5 years or so. Yeah. Really started streaming probably 3 or so. First doing the webcam thing and then VTubing for about 2 years.
Yeah. Well, you've got a heck of a voice. So is that indicative of being a entertainer or broadcaster in the past?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I started doing it is I did a lot of radio in high school and moved out to Hollywood for a little bit of time. And I've always liked the content creation kind of stuff. So thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah. If I was still in control of I'd hire you for absolutely no money right away.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Absolutely.
Yep. You know the deal. It says you get into radio, you're not in it for the money, you're in it for the free stuff. And
yeah, I mean, you'd be paying more than I make from YouTube, so you're already got a head start.
Oh, I don't know. I just came from there 5 years ago, radio, and it doesn't look good.
Yeah. I mean, I was in journalism for a while too, and I mean, you know how that is.
Oh, you got a double whammy on that one. Well,
yeah, I mean. It's been an interesting life, but it hasn't been a very, very successful one. I keep choosing the weirdest options available.
Yeah, well, sometimes we just get born 20 years too late, or in my case, about 150 years too late. But the radio is a tough medium to deal with, but you get a chance to do a lot of that here. I think this VTubing kind of reminds me of the old actual radio DJ days where people would come on, even use different names, even take on different personalities while playing music that you could hear on any different stations. VTubers do the same thing while playing video games that you can see other people play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think that's a reason like a lot of people get into it is, after working in media and this too, YouTube and Twitch, they've created a kind of parody. Like anyone can really kind of make any kind of content that they want. You don't need a huge budget.
Yep.
I mean, it's really great. Yeah. I think what you're doing here is awesome too. I mean, the whole podcast thing and interviewing, I mean, this is a big project you're doing. And I think it's fantastic.
Well, it's kind of therapy for me too, because I miss the radio days a little bit. I don't miss the paycheck, but I miss everything else. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, I get to talk with folks like yourself and all these different people with different backgrounds and so many different talents that we wouldn't have heard otherwise or known about.
I mean, that's the thing about VTubing is, I think there's a lot in the fandom that kind of maybe pushes things in like certain directions, like there's certain expectations. But I mean, when you look at the field, I mean, there's people doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I really think that there's no type of like bad content. I think as long as you're creating content, there's going to be an audience for it, somewhere out there.
Yeah. And it's a true marketplace for it. I mean, I'm not, necessarily throwing capitalism into the mix here, but if you've done your things right and you've gotten yourself out to an audience and you're good enough for that audience is going to come back, they're going to stay with you. And if you market yourself a little bit, put yourself here and there, and you're going to draw more people, and it'll start catching catching. But you can go as far as you want with it too. You could be a hobbyist and do it once a week or whenever you feel like it, or you can try to make some money out of it too. Um,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
yeah, and as long as folks don't come in and think they're going to be, in Japan being idols immediately.
Yeah, yeah. If only it were that easy, right?
Yeah, and I don't know the way it's going these days. I don't know whether that's so good or not.
Yeah, yeah. I've said it a few times on my streams before, but it's really what you put into it.
Mhm.
It's as long as is like you were saying, as long as you're personable, as long as you keep doing your thing. If the content is good, I think people will watch.
Absolutely, absolutely, and people get to be more themselves too. I think even though there is an avatar out there, people get to use that as a little bit more of a safety blanket, and kind of reach out a little bit further than they would normally in front of an audience. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it really is kind of a way for us to kind of connect with people,
yeah.
that we may not have had a chance to do otherwise.
So was it easy for you to get started? I mean, could you turn the microphone and say, here I am, let's go?
I would say it wasn't too hard. There was a lot of technical things that had to be figured out with the model and all that. I started with a free booth guy.
Hmm.
You go on booth and find a free model.
Yeah.
Did that for about a year before I was able to commission my own. Then I had to learn Live 2D to rig the thing. So I mean, there was definitely some issues with it. But in terms of just being able to stream, I've always been kind of comfortable with that.
Hmm.
I worked out in Hollywood for a while. I'm used to entertainment in general.
Right.
But it's really kind of a stress reliever. I think it's fun. You get to play video games. You get to play guitar. Really do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just comfortable.
You get to create your own world to exist in a way. That you're still bringing other people into it and you're interacting with them, but you're doing it under your rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's great that I think there are options if you want to go the more professional route, and
Hmm.
then if you don't, then the indie stuff is very viable as well.
Oh yeah.
I think there's a lot of stuff that is brought from the entertainment industry that I think some people don't necessarily know that they're getting into when they start.
Yeah.
So that can be a bit of a learning curve, but yeah, I mean, you can really go whichever route you want,
Mm.
which I think is really great. You've got options that may not have existed before.
There's some people who are learning the words contract and intellectual property before they really want to know about
Yeah,
those
yeah.
words. Uh,
No kidding. What's an NDA, right?
yeah, what the heck is that? What do you mean I can't say that name anymore? Yes. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
Watch what you're signing, kiddos. You don't know we'll look at the very, very fine print as much as you can.
Yeah.
Um, so you're doing some guitar as well. You say you scuff around on the guitar. Now, really, how long have you been playing the guitar?
Oh God, I started that in high school. I've been playing about 20 years or so now.
Well,
I think I've probably forgotten more songs than I currently know how to play. Nowadays, whenever I turn it on, it's usually just like Metallica covers or something like that. It's like, oh God, he's playing Master of Puppets again. Sit down. We're gonna be a while, right?
sit
But no,
down.
it's just fun.
Oh yeah, I mean,
And
if I had any talent at all to do that, I'd be doing it all the time. Which is
hey, I mean, you can always pick it up and learn. I mean, it's that's the nice thing about instruments is it's really best way to do it is just pick it up and go.
yeah, but I have like stubby fingers and I'm cross-handed, so I don't even know which side of the instrument I'd be playing.
Fair, fair. It worked for Hendrix, so
Well, yeah, but yeah, there's uh, no, no, I'm not going to be any
yeah,
Hendrix.
I'm
Um,
I'm no Hetfield
yeah,
either, so we can scuff around.
I imagine I could set the guitar on fire, but that wouldn't be on purpose.
Yeah, but I mean that's also the nice thing with VTubing is like that becomes content. Like that's for me, it's practice. Like I know, I'm very mid about a lot of that stuff. But I can kill two birds with one stone. Get a little practice in, and typically I feel that people in the fandoms aren't super judgmental when it comes to VTubers being open about practicing things. Right. So it's kind of nice being able to just hop in and maybe try some stuff that it doesn't always work, but you can say you gave it a shot, right?
Right. Now I've also read you said you're working on another book. Now that's a line out that hangs out there to just needs to have something hung on it. So tell me about this. Another book.
Yeah. So I've written two books, The Sky Thief and Desert Siren. Like my actual background, my degree and all of that is in writing way back when, right?
Oh, jealous.
So, I've scuffed around with it. I haven't written a whole lot lately, but I do have a couple of things outside the book project that might kind of intertwine with the VTuber thing. It should be kind of fun. It'll be interesting to see if it works. I
am so jealous. Well, I can't do that at all. I get things nodding around in my head, and then I lose them, and then I find something else to do.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's hard writing. It's 70,000 words is a lot, and you can have a lot of ideas, but you can only type so fast. So no matter what, you're kind of looking at a lot of time, right?
Yeah, and I imagine for you too, it's got to be the right idea, because if you just have an idea, that'd be a good book, and then you got, am I going to put the work into it to make it a book?
Yeah. I think Stephen King had some good advice with that in his book on writing. That the really good ideas are the ones that kind of stick with you, not the ones you get at like 3:00 in the morning when you just woke up, right? Like the ones you feel like you got to write down. It's the ones that kind of roll around in your head for a while. You give it a little bit of thought, and then you're like, okay, there might be something there to this, right?
You look at your notes that you wrote in them at 2 a.m. It says, Twinkies with fins. What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not even a good episode on television for that sort of thing. So, how did you get to Hollywood? And what were you doing over there?
A lot of choices I probably wouldn't make today. I moved out there with like $1,000 in my bank account and no job. It was something I don't think that I could do today.
No.
But yeah, it was just it was an adventure. I was out there for about a decade or so, working in some of the studios and odd jobs and that kind of thing. So
that is an early '80s sitcom right there.
Yeah. I mean, we used to joke about it in my department of the studio. Probably someone could write a thing about it and make it work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but you saw that and you took the opportunity. A lot of people wouldn't have been courageous enough to make that jump.
Yeah. I mean, courageous or stupid. I'm not sure which. They're looking back on it now after all that time. You're like, oh wow, that I probably could have gotten mugged or had some stuff stolen from me at that point. I mean, it was a lot of luck. Well, yeah, that's what it came down to.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of people who will go into their 60s and 70s and think, boy, I really had the opportunity to try something like this and didn't get a chance to. So. You got that in your pocket for the rest of your life. You can
for sure. And I try keeping that going forward. I'm typically a very big scaredy cat about things that jump out in the dark, but for whatever reason, just like taking the plunge on these big media and life choices, like it's never really been too much of a problem. I like it. It's an adventure. Yeah, it's stories to tell, right?
Yeah, but you can. That's another thing too that this technology has come up with. If you wanted to do the voice acting, you wanted to do some other things online with this, there's a lot of people now who are doing this from their homes and making a little bit of bank at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I mean, if you want to go that route, that's definitely an option. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you've got a lot of control over the kind of things that you can do. Yeah. With most situations anyways, right?
Yeah, well, most until somebody else. Till the other shoe falls, anyway, you can enjoy it while you can.
So, and until you start looking at things like budgets and sets and that kind of thing. Right?
Yeah, it's a little bit much when it comes down to that. So when I tune into one of your streams, what am I going to watch?
So I do. I mean, I really do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
There's really not a whole lot that I'm not interested in. In terms of gaming, it's a lot of open world RPG kind of stuff, adventure.
Hmm.
Right now, I'm playing through like every Final Fantasy game, so I'm up to FF9 right now.
Oh my.
Yeah, but then I'll skip around and do like Black Ops, or
Yeah.
today I was playing Infinity Nikki, which is a fashion game.
I
So
saw.
it's
I
really
saw
kind of
that. I
it's a
saw
big
you were.
spread. Yeah.
I saw you were doing that, and you made it sound like you were you almost poor boyed yourself into it. Oh, I guess I'm gonna have to play this game.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was talking about it, and I'm like, you know what? I like fashion. Why not? Let's just go ahead and do it.
So how does it play?
Yeah, I mean, it's good. If you played like Genshin or Honkai Star Rail, it's kind of in the similar vein. It's just you roll for costumes instead of weapons. It's very chill. I like that. I like the chill stuff. It makes it easy to just kind of sit and chat for a little bit, as opposed to FF where you got all these cutscenes you
Oh
gotta
yeah,
read through and kind of pay attention to, right?
yeah, and what I mean, I've never actually played Final Fantasy. I watched lots of people play it, and it kind of gets me how long it's gone and the differences in like in quality of the videos, and they hang so much on those videos. It's kind of tough for me to follow as a watcher anyway.
I understand. Yeah, it's definitely that's one of the reasons I'm kind of doing the whole project, is to like see how it's changed over the years.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's kind of an interesting experience. Is like one of I would consider one of gaming's like tentpole franchises,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like up there with Mario's and Sonic's and that kind of
yeah.
thing. So yeah, it's been a fun experience.
And we're getting into things now, like you mentioned, the Star Rail and that type of thing. These games, Genshin Impact especially, these games are now not, instead of coming out with Genshin Impact 2, you're getting more scenarios that are being incorporated into the game. And people are still buying Genshin Impact for the first time, but then they're adding things to it. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that. I mean, we already are, really.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff is moving. I would say most of the industry is already, games as a service is what they would call it.
Hmm.
Where yeah, you just have a perpetual game that just releases new content. But I mean, as an old school like EverQuest player, like I'm used to the MMO sphere, which that's kind of normal. So
You're talking about old school. I had a Pong, okay?
yeah, fair. Hey, I had an Intellivision growing up. I know how it
Oh,
is.
now folks who never played in a television don't know the pain of those thumbs after you played one game of football on a television.
Oh yeah. You get back and try to play ski free, and no
Oh,
matter how many times, you're never going to escape that Yeti.
no, you're
It's going
not.
to get you.
It is going to get you, and by the time you're done, your thumbs are going to be absolutely swollen because the the game controller was a really really good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is kind of interesting, like playing some of these older games that I used to remember. You only had, really the D-pad
Hmm.
and your four buttons, right?
Right.
And trying to go back now and play them with a joystick it's honestly kind of hard in a lot of cases, because I grew up with the D-pad.
Oh yeah, yeah, and the Intellivision kind of had a D-pad. It
Yeah.
it sometimes it worked, but those controllers would wear out after a while, and then you'd really have trouble, especially a game like racing.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah.
That game lasted forever, and then you'd end up getting lost. You couldn't even get back on the track. It but there are some of those games that are classics. You play that baseball game once and you're hooked on it, even though it's nothing like really baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, and now you've got, MLB 2K5 or
Oh
whatever,
yeah,
and you can do all the sabermetrics and all that. It's like, man, I just like choosing the characters,
yeah.
right? Like,
I just want to hit the ball and make it go far. That's what I want to
yeah,
do.
man, just put Griffey in there. You don't need to give me the stats.
That's right. I really want to do this. I want to see somebody put together like a group of 16 top gamers and have them have a Pong tournament.
I mean, that sounds like something Corona would probably do,
Yeah,
to be honest.
yeah. I would love to see it.
Absolutely.
I would see if anyone could even figure out how to use the paddles instead of the joystick
Yeah.
for that. What am I
Well, I
shooting at?
mean,
I'm not shooting.
we saw how Marine and Suisse did at the Tetris tournament. So,
Oh,
I mean, stranger things have happened.
yes. I'm sure somebody will come up with the idea and make money on it, like to
Yeah.
now watch and be mad at it. Like, uh, all that stuff. So when you're on this stream now, um, and you're obviously enjoying yourself with it because you wouldn't be still doing it if you weren't. Um, what is the thing that gets you the most that brings you back again to do it again?
It's a combination of a lot of things. First and foremost, it's something to do. I mean, if you have a regular job, which I mean, I work retail part time. Like, it's not really the most exciting thing nowadays.
No.
So yeah, I mean, it gives me something to do in the evenings. But it's also trying new things. I've always been a gamer, so I'm going to be playing games anyways. So I might as well talk about them and talk about my experiences with them. I like talking about development decisions and some of the industry stuff behind it. It's a personal interest as much as anything.
With your background and all this stuff that you're doing, I mean, writing and you've been over on the left coast, doing things behind the scenes. Do you look at a game differently than say the average person? You think as far as the cut scenes and how they're put together and the story and all of that? Do you tend to take that apart in your head?
Yeah, and I mean that's something that we sometimes talk about on the streams too. Like, it's I don't really feel like I need to put an 18 plus thing on my stream because I don't know too many kids that are going to be like talking about the game development practices, right? But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of story and that kind of thing, and I've got friends that work out in the industry now, so yeah, I think it's fun to kind of look behind the scenes and also kind of head off some of the drama that sometimes comes. Directed at the games industry about decisions. Sometimes I think it can be kind of fun to kind of look at that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do you second guess them?
Oh, I'm wrong all the time. I mean, don't take my word for gospel. I don't work in the games industry aside from streaming them.
Yeah.
But they are, they're just random musings. Sometimes I hit, sometimes I miss. It's fine.
I'm wondering whether you would have something in the back of your mind about putting together a game from some of your writings in the past.
I mean, it would be nice. I don't know anything about like coding, though.
Well, no.
So yeah, all of that stuff. Unity, I've opened Blender, I think like once. It would be a lot of work.
Well, yeah, that's where you call on your friends to do the work.
Yeah. I mean, if they want to direct the game, I'll do the writing for it. But that's like pie in the sky kind of stuff. That's after the gold play button, right?
There you go. And then you can hawk it to get all the other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is obviously something that once you realized that it was available, that you pretty much embraced, and you're enjoying yourself with it. Have there been times when you've had enough of it for a while?
The VTubing, not really. I started VTubing because there were cases like that when I was webcam streaming. It's and I think most VTubers understand. It's having the webcam on, and I'm basically a living Slender Man with giant raccoon bags under my eyes. So sometimes you just roll out of bed and want to start streaming, but the webcam does not allow it. Since starting VTubing, I haven't really second guessed it at all.
Yeah.
The harder part for me is figuring out what to play. I don't like doing the same game too many times in a row. Mm-hmm. So yeah, sometimes it can be tricky to find new stuff on a limited budget, but yeah, the actual VTubing aspect of that's not going anywhere.
So when you do choose the game, are you choosing it for yourself or for the audience?
Really a little of both. I'm not much of an analytics guy, and that's something that I try giving as advice. Mm-hmm. To a lot of VTubers is don't worry about the analytics all that much. Mm-hmm. Like I pay attention to them to see what's working and what's not. But there's so much, and this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of luck there's a lot of happenstance, a lot of who you know kind of stuff into what makes it as a big VTuber or just a big entertainment in general.
Oh yeah.
So just focus on having fun and making the best kind of content you have. But I do mostly play things that I enjoy. So, you know, there's a few games that I think people would have liked to see me play that I couldn't play for various reasons. But yeah, it's mostly stuff I like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the opposite is true too. I mean, we see whatever entertainment industry you in, you see just the most horrible things succeed.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's no
on,
lack
man.
of scandal, that's for sure.
You're like, come on, man. That's just look behind the curtain a little bit at this, okay? But no, and you got to do it without comparing it to yourself, because otherwise you're never going to win that argument.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's something that I do kind of bring up a lot too, is if you're going to be an entertainer, you know, there's a lot of really good parts and a lot of really bad parts. And, you know, it's kind of important to learn how to navigate a lot of like the professional side of things, because there always is kind of a certain way of doing things, and, you know, how to pitch and how to negotiate and how to deal with fandoms and that kind of stuff. That's not necessarily taught when you just pick up a webcam and start streaming, you know?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've see people who get into whether it's just webcamming or just going on and streaming something, and they're all gung ho about it, and they get started, and then about 1 week later they are done.
Right? Yeah, and you know, that's kind of the thing, is like when you're working for like a big studio, for example, you know, you have that infrastructure. There's a whole industry that's built around protecting the talents and how to navigate PR and dealing with fans and all of that that you really don't have when you make it big as just a regular streamer. You know, you kind of have to learn it all on the fly. So yeah, it can be tough for some people. You're
your own company.
In those cases. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I usually in those cases, I say, you know, maybe there's certain aspects of it that might not be for you, and maybe something else would work instead, like maybe doing video guides or something like that, instead of necessarily being, you know, live all the time. You know, as VTubing grows, I think it's something we're going to see a lot more of in the future. But I think it's an important discussion to have, and you know, we gotta help each other as best we can with the knowledge that we've got.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens once people kind of get a little more into the marketing segment of it. Sooner or later, there's going to be somebody who's going to be going on and saying, here's a handy dandy kit that'll get you started, and you'll be making money in a week. That type of deal.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's already been a few of those popping up on Loose.
You know. And there's people who, you know, start up quote unquote agencies that are nothing and fall apart very quickly.
That could be a whole podcast of its own.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But then you're going to get people who are going to start coming in and thinking that they're like marketing savvy and start, you know, trying to navigate themselves like they're in a stock market situation or something. We're not talking like your average television and radio station back in the day where there's a limited audience. Your audience is potentially the entire planet here. You're not cutting up a pie. You're cutting up a planet.
Sure enough. And, you know, I think that kind of circles back to what I was saying. You know, that's why I say focus on the content and just doing the best that you can do. Because there's really no right answers. Anyone that's giving advice on like, yes, this is how to do it. You know, there's certain ways to game the algorithm and that kind of thing. But for the most part, there's really no one way that anyone really makes it. It's everyone's got a different story.
Oh yeah.
You know, if there was one way, then everyone would be doing it, right? So you just gotta, so you gotta focus on what you do have under control, because there's a lot of things that are not. Like we don't own YouTube, so whatever they're doing, we just gotta kind of work around, right?
I don't even have stock in it, unfortunately. No, my stock was in Netscape.
Oh yeah. Oh God. There's a throwback.
Actually, my actual my mail account that I use for my average email is still a Netscape account.
They still run the servers on those?
Well, it's goes to AOL, but
Okay,
I've
okay.
just kept the Netscape.net on it because I have so many filters on it now over, how many 20 some odd years. There's no way I'm going to leave it now. I don't get any spam on
Yeah,
that thing.
absolutely. I
I,
mean, that's kind of interesting. Is I'll watch some of the Japanese VTubers sometimes. Like I'm a big Hollow fan,
yeah,
and yeah, it's interesting to see like Yahoo is still like their major news source over there, and a lot of people still have their Yahoo accounts. So
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you say you're a HoloLive fan, eh? So
absolutely, yeah.
have you been stumbled by the recent news over there?
Yeah, and that's something that I've talked about a little bit on stream, and yeah, that's kind of why I bring up the entertainment industry thing
Mm,
and that kind of stuff. Yeah, if sometimes things happen,
mm,
and it's sad. I'll be missing those talents, but that's a choice they both made.
mm.
And sometimes things don't work out. I don't think necessarily anything insidious is happening. It's
Yeah.
just sometimes creative differences really are just creative differences, right?
Yeah, and people have to realize that the culture and the entire setup they have over there is so different than the average person coming on and turning their computer on and their iPhone and going on the air. It's not the same. It the
Yeah.
it's a very different world. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it kind of reminds me of my friend who was like, he's a UX designer.
mm,
And when he first got into it, he realized like real fast that half of his job would be pitch meetings and public speaking, which he was not he was not expecting.
yes,
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes the things change, and it's perfectly fine to say this is no longer for me, and go back indie. And
yeah,
yeah, that's the great thing. The thing with VTubing is you can do either path really,
yeah.
and be viable.
Yeah, and then you see, and then you hold your breath a little bit, and after
Yeah,
you knee jerk react, then you see what comes up after it. As you said with the one young lady, Watson, well, Amelia Watson, she obviously had other things she wanted to do, and she's going to do them. Nobody had any idea how accomplished she was in other things.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's the thing. It's like sometimes you do outgrow the company.
Yeah,
That can happen sometimes.
yeah,
And I'm excited to see what they're going to do in the future. We'll just have to wait.
yeah, yeah, and that's one of the great things is that we're going to be able to watch this grow in our lifetimes, and really make this world really small in a hurry.
Yeah, for absolutely.
Now, the only thing that's going to get me now is the time zones.
Oh yeah, I used to watch a lot of Bay, and then she and then she moved, and it's like, oh wow, these time zones are way different. Yeah,
That's why
you know,
you hope that there's a VOD.
yeah. No, the VTuber hours are a very real thing.
Yes, yes, and then you get some of these time zones that are a half hour off. Like, how do you even do that? How can you?
Yeah.
That's just not right at all. So have you got any big things coming up on the channel here soon?
Uh, Big things on the channel for this year. Not really. I'm gonna be trying to do my first endurance stream next week.
Oi,
Yeah, for it's a celebration for some channel milestones on subs and my birthday, so it'll be
yes.
fun. A lot of stuff going on for next year though. It's they got to get some assets made, and it'll be the first time doing some scripted content, but
Ooh.
it's gonna be some planning involved in that one, so I don't have any TA on it. Just sometime in 2025.
Well, make sure you come back on so we can talk about that. Okay? We want to brought that up as much as possible because it is obvious that you've got everything that you need to really have fun with this and really stretch out a little bit.
Hey, thank you. And I hope everything goes well, for your channel. And like I said, I think this is a great project and a lot of different perspectives that I don't think a whole lot of people are doing right now. So, thanks a ton for having us and kind of looking out for the little guys out there.
Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.